Hello students, I welcome you all for this English class. Through the previous videos, we have already completed 3 units of this chapter, Swami and Friends, written by R.K. Narayan. So students, in this video, we will study the unit of the same chapter, that is, what is tale. In this chapter, the friends of Swami were jealous of his friendship with Rajam. So, they called him the tail of Rajam and refused to play or talk with him. Swami felt most wretched, isolated, and unhappy. Let us understand from the story the reasons for their jealousy. It was Wednesday morning. The boys of the first A had a leisure between 3 and 3:45 as the geography master was absent. Swaminathan had missed his friends and found himself alone, and while wandering along the veranda of the infant standards, the children of the infant standards seemed ridiculously tiny, and he felt himself vastly superior and old. When he saw them dabbling in wet clay trying to shape models, this all seemed meaningless for Swaminathan and thought that schools are meant for studying more serious things like geography, arithmetic, and English. And in one room, he found all the children engaged in repeating the first 2 letters of the Tamil alphabets. The noise that made by them got on his nerves, but unfortunately, he noticed that the teacher was sitting with his back to him. Now, Swami wanted to go to inspect the senior classes, but he changed his mind because he thought that the headmaster might be up there and did not want to caught up there. That would mean a lot of unsatisfactory explanations and withdraw himself. So, Swami noticed in his class that except Rajam and Mani, the rest all were under the huge tamarind tree. They all were playing some game. Swaminathan tried to join them, but the response disappointed him. They all turned their faces with a faint smile and returned to their game. Swaminathan noticed that even the genial Somu was grim and all these things seemed to be wrong somewhere. Then Swaminathan assumed a easy tone and shouted by saying, "What about a little place for me in the game?" Nobody answered. Then Shankar said curtly, "That it's a pity we can't take more in the meanwhile." P said in a teasing manner that there are people who can be very efficient as tails, and the rest laughed at this, and these prolonged conversations of tail comprehended some unpleasant references to himself. By hearing this sort of response from his friends, Swaminathan was almost about to cry, and the bell rang then. They all ran to their classes. Swaminathan, sunk with guilty, sat in his seat with a red face. An English period started, which was presided by Vedanayagam. He was reading story of an old man who planted trees for posterity and was paid 10 rupees by a king. Not a word reached Swaminathan's brain. If he would be questioned, then he would have blundered and also could get punishment of standing on the bench. But his luck was good. The period was over, and when Swami was walking home alone, then he cried out at Somu to stop. But Somu didn't. Then Swami asked, "What is the matter with you fellows?" Somu replied, "Nothing special," and teased by his new name, the tail, Rajam's tail, and also said that they aren't good enough for him, and also asked Swami that how can everyone be a son of police superintendent, and was off. This was Swaminathan's first shock in life, which paralyzed all his mental process. He faintly wondered if he had been dreaming and thought that what was wrong in liking and going about with Rajam, and why did it make them so angry. Thinking this, he went home, flung his coat, cap and books on the table, gulped down the cold coffee, and sat on the pole, gazing into the dark intricacies of the gutter that adorned Vinayaka Mudliyar Street, in which old pieces of paper, leaves, and sticks are floating. A small piece of tin is also gently skimming along it. Swami was slightly irritated when a brick obstructed the progress of the tin. He also saw a small ant moving about aimlessly. He then carefully caught that ant and placed it in the boat, and the boat, after a long journey in the gutter, along with the ant in it, got distracted by a dry leaf which had fallen on it, and there was no sign of the ant. Then he noticed the boat and its cargo were wretched beyond recovery. He took a pinch of earth, uttered a prayer for the soul of the ant, and dropped it into the gutter. In a few days, Swaminathan got accustomed to his position as the enemy of Somu and company, but then He had an irresistible desire to talk to his old friends and again want to do the same mischiefs with them. But Swaminathan suppressed the impulse and laughed at it himself alone. Again, he wanted to whisper in the ears of the pea and giggle, but bit his lips and kept quiet. After a while, he felt a friendly look in Somu's eyes and became happy, but Somu turned away. But after several attempts, he was unable to withstand near them and acted that as if he had forgot some books in that place and ran away from that place like a stag. With this explanation, we have come to the end of this chapter.